Okay, let's try another one of these. I must admit, one is super, super, super tricky. And the reason that it's tricky is it starts with a negative x squared. When it starts with a negative x squared, that really throws us for a loop when we try to plug values into this function. So what I encourage you to do, if you run across one of these in my math lab homework, or for my online classes, or in your quizzes, put in that understood one. Write that understood one in there. I didn't change the problem at all. I just said, hey, instead of negative x squared, which is implied negative 1x squared, let's just write that one. And I promise that that little step right there is going to save you some trouble. Okay, let's go a little faster through this one. The form that I'm going to use is, of course, my standard quadratic form. For this particular problem, a is negative 1, b is 4, and c is negative 4. My vertex has the formula change colors for a minute. My vertex has the formula x equals negative b over 2a. You will need to know that for your test and for your final. So for this particular problem, it's going to be the negative of 4 over 2 times a. So the first part of the vertex is 2. I don't know the second part. To find the second part of the vertex, I need to take 2 and plug it into my function. When I plug 2 into this function, it looks like this. Everywhere I see an x, I put a 2. So working my order of operations, it says I have to do exponents first. So I bring down my negative 1. 2 squared is 4. This would give me 8. And so I'd get negative 4 plus 8 minus 4, which would give me 0. So this vertex up here would be the point 2, 0. Let's go ahead and put that point on our graph. I go over 2 and up 0. There is my vertex. The second piece that it asks you to do is find the axis of symmetry. Remember, the axis of symmetry starts with x equals. Remember, it's also, if you look at your vertex, it's the first number of the vertex. So x equals 2 is my axis of symmetry. I'm going to divide my parabola. I'm going to put the axis of symmetry on the graph, which will divide the parabola in half. Now that brings us to a. Remember, a is not the axis. A is the number in front. So the number in front would be this value right here, which is a negative 1. Since that's a negative 1, that tells me my graph opens downwards. So from that red point, I'm going to be going downwards. The next part says pick an additional point. I prefer to pick 0. Now truthfully, you can pick whatever point you want, but 0 is usually really easy. So if I wanted to pick 0, plug in 0 into the function. And I get 0 plus 0 minus 4. So I'm going to get the point 0, negative 4. Now, how far is that orange point away from the blue dotted line? 2 places, right? So I'm going to go over 2 places, which means on the right side of the graph I have to go over 2 places. After that, I can graph it. The last question I ask you here is, do you have a max or a min? Well, look at the red point. Is it the highest or is it the lowest? It's the highest, which means I have a max at the vertex 2, 0.